I hope y'all ain't miss me too much. And I have to say thank you. I have to say thank you to everybody that's watched, that's been watching, subscribers, new ones and old ones, recurring visitors, new visitors that's just peeking in, trying to see what I'm on. I appreciate each and every one of you, right? I hope that you like the video. If you don't like it this time, I'll get you next time. But let's catch up really quick. If you clicked, you know why we're here. We're going to get into Cheyenne, Bryant, and Chris Blake Griffith. I keep mixing him up with Chris Griffin. Don't judge me. But I was celebrating my birthday last week. I went to see the Odyssey. I went to see J. Cole, hence the shirt. And we're going to get into that in the next conversation. So we're going to go back to the main point. We previously had a conversation about Cheyenne and specifically her interactions with Touré and how that bubbled over. And the notion that we were uncovering there was the idea that unhealed wounds can manifest or become triggers in your adult life, right? And so we also talked about Chris and his whole situation with Stefan. And my opinion at that point was very much that if there was anything that was going on with them in any way, I felt like it was very much mirroring the dynamic that he experienced with Chef Mila, where I don't think that Stefan was particularly prim or nice guy, because I can't know that. But the idea of whomever he was in that dynamic, I feel like it was acceptable until the people that wanted to be a part of it, i.e. Chris, could no longer be a part of it. So once he got the boot, then he had a problem with Stefan, but he was fine with Stefan so long as Stefan was in his face. And the idea that Chris was running around with all of that Dear Shirley energy with Cardi B, I have mixed feelings, and I had the belief that he had a thing for Stefan. And so we're gonna get into what this looks like a little bit more. And the short version of it is I think that these two people are struggling with what we call HPD, or histrionic personality disorder. This is just a thought. Hear me out. I'm gonna walk y'all through it. All right. So the sensationalized conversation that's typically going on is who's narcissistic, right? Narcissism is all over the place. And we've taken that kind of egotistical, self-centered personality type that is typically like unempathetic and kind of mean-spirited and so on, and we've kind of bubbled that up into all of those types of people are narcissistic, right? Like the prototype would be, this is not nice to say, but it would be number 47. It would be like the pink wig lady. Like people would run and jump and say like these are examples of narcissism. It's just based on modern day conversation. Sorry, I'm throwing shots at people, but just for the sake of clarifying how it's typically used, those are the stencils that we use to say like, oh, they're a narcissist. And I'm sure as I'm saying that, there's a bunch of people that's coming to your mind on who else is a narcissist, right? So I'm going to give you my position. As I've mentioned to y'all before, I am a grad student. Developmental psych is my major. I am far from in the capacity of an expert, a clinician, or anything like that. But if we were having like a discussion board post and they were to ask, like, give us examples of people that you believe have histrionic personality disorder, these are two people that I would bring to the front and use as an example. So let's start with the clips where Cheyenne felt like she needed to throw her hat in the bucket with this Netflix documentary thing. Check it out. For whatever reason that Cheyenne decided that she was going to rehash this discussion about this doctorate thing, she bubbled it back up and she just looks crazier all over again. The internet wasted absolutely no time finding the cap and gown on Amazon.
You know what? Just gonna go to hell. We're not doing this. We're not doing this, okay? Took me 12 seconds to find it on Amazon. $83. $83. You're not about to keep playing in my face. Produce the document. Show us footage.
And then you have people as well-versed as Mark Lamont Hill talking about doctorate cap and gowns mean something, right? So each color that is designated to specific majors and studies is actually coordinated. So if someone is leaving school of law, there's one color. If they're leaving school for psychology, there's another color. She got the wrong color. And again, somebody like Mark, who is also a doctor, he doesn't go by Dr. Hill or anything like that. He noted that. But while I'm in the midst of putting my script together so that I could have this conversation, of course, I stumble across Mark actually talking to the gentleman that appointed the degree from the Christian university that Vlad and Jamal Bryant already verified doesn't exist. But I'm gonna let y'all see it anyway.
So for this particular case, we decided to offer a Doctor of Psychology degree to theocentric psychology. This particular case is a very profound case. Just to give some background on why I even made this decision, it's because this has been talked about matter for for a consecutive amount of years. And I took the initiative upon myself because she has 2 honorary doctorate degrees. I took the initiative upon myself to give her a earned doctorate degree. In her interviews that she possesses online, she says, I'm a doctor of psychology. If you go back to her previous video, she says, I'm a doctor of psychology. I'm a doctor of psychology. So that was the primary reason why the degree is classified as a doctor of psychology, because I wanted to validate her self-fulfilled prophecy. And also is there are individuals who doubted the validity of her degree. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to step up and I'll grant her a degree. And now there's proof that she actually has a degree.
So doctors, your university doesn't give doctors of psychology, but you've given one, and that one is to Cheyenne Bryant because of her self-fulfilled prophecy.
No, we provide doctor of psychology degrees, but it's rare that students elect to pursue that degree.
How many doctors of psychology have you given ever?
Only one. So literally the university was created.
And who's that one? Is it Cheyenne Bryant?
Cheyenne Bryant. The university was just established in May of 2026. So in regard to Dr. Bryant's narrative about the school not being registered, it was just started in May of 2026. So it's not going to have any type of standing online. It was just established in May of 2026.
How many doctors have you given out total since May?
Only one.
So in the history of this school, which started
in May
8 weeks ago,
yes,
you've given out one degree, and that is to Cheyenne Bryant. So if you've only been open for 8 or 9 weeks, how have you been able to do an earned doctorate? I mean, I understand an honorary doctorate because that's based on life contributions, social contributions, status, etc. But an earned doctorate is usually done through coursework. You couldn't do coursework in 2 months.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with what's required of an earned doctorate. It usually takes 4 to 6 years.
Yeah.
But as a private Christian university, we actually reserve the right to waive traditional policies and procedures. So how we conducted that particular decision was we initiated a process called prior learning assessment and credit for prior learning. And what that is that's an assessment on one's previous work in the field of psychology or theocentric psychology. And that is a process where we grant credits based on their vocational experience, their career background. There was also a forensic analysis conducted on the therapy sessions and life coaching sessions conducted by Cheyenne Bryant, and she has approximately 20 or more publicly available. And we made the assessment based on her prior learning and her work in the field of psychology to provide her with this Doctor of Psychology and Theocentric Psychology degree. It's a very rare occurrence, but because it's a very controversial subject matter, we decided to take the step up and give her what she rightfully earned. We were compelled by her story about Arkansas University not providing transcripts and not having records. So we stepped up and gave her transcripts and her degrees.
Did you attempt to get her when you applied? Did you look at any of her transcripts?
I didn't actually have access to her transcripts. I didn't have it.
So of course, as we start to watch all of this stuff just unravel and fall apart, the only thing I can think about is like, why in the hell would you bring this back up, right? It was already so quiet and you got to exist in your space peacefully. Why not let dogs lie? We'll get back to that. And then you have Chris. So Chris is doing these Vlad interviews, and he did the surprise interview with TMZ, which I still don't understand why he's doing all of this conversing about this very active case, still trying to imply that he's trying to talk around the sexuality questions and things like that, because you understand that culturally, that's the stuff that we into. Whether or not you got beat up and all that other stuff, we kind of understand and have settled that notion. But the sensationalism around the sexuality is the crux of the discussion. So he's on Vlad going through this conversation again. And here are some of the clips that he's done so far.
Into the incident, you have kids.
I do have kids, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you a heterosexual man, gay man, bisexual man?
I am a heterosexual man. I am a straight man. I know that like people teeter the line of like saying straight and heterosexual can technically mean different things.
Does it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Duran Bernard just did this whole segment on the JBP where he was breaking down the difference between hetero and straight. And I didn't really listen to all of it, but for that community, I just want to be very technically clear. I am both straight. I am heterosexual. I have never had a back and forth or physical. I've never been with a man, and no man has ever been with me.
Okay.
The reason that I feel like whatever allegations surface and people run with the narrative that maybe perhaps myself and Stefan were dating, I think people, they can run with that because a picture's worth 1,000 words. When you ask me, I don't think I was in no relationship with this man, but I do know that when we used to go to stores and things like that, I didn't pay for anything. There's a photographer standing on the side. He doesn't get to shop. His brother, he doesn't get to shop. These other guys, they don't get to shop. They just stand along the wall. The girls are shopping. In my mind, I'm shopping too, but in my head, I'm not thinking.
So he's paying for everything.
Yeah, he's paying for everything, but I'm not thinking I'm like one of the girls.
Right. I mean, because to be completely fair, in the way you present yourself, some people could think, oh, okay, this is a gay man.
1,000%.
It's not an insult. It just is what it is, right?
1,000%.
If you came out and said, hey, I'm gay, I don't think the world would be shocked and be like, no, not this guy.
Yeah,
not to say it's not an insult or whatever else. At the end of the day, everyone has their own preferences.
And I'm not insulted because
Yeah.
I know I'm not. That's the difference. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what and at the point in time, I'm walking around and I love my baby. My eldest boy, his name is Milo Blake. I'm putting MILO $BLAKE on my nails. I would do it when I was a kid in grade school. I used to write on my nails with Sharpie. Now in black. And now I'm putting my son's name on my nails. He might look at that and be like, oh, he's a little sweet. In reality, I'm just getting my shit off the way I want to because I live my life. I pay my own bills and I don't take. So in my head, I can do what the fuck I want to do. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's not my mind.
Okay, got it. So, we have that cleared up.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So despite my belief that this is a clear breakdown or compromise of his legal strategy, I'm like, you are also doing this because you want attention. There's nothing in my brain that registers any of this behavior as anything other than attention seeking. And this is what brought me to the idea or the notion of HPD. He was having a conversation about the fact that he's at the stores and he's not paying for stuff and all this. And I'm like, yeah, but you were his stylist. Like, why are you romanticizing what could arguably be a business relationship? But more importantly, if it was inappropriate or it wasn't something that you wanted or desired, why would you continue in that space? No problem. He says a picture is worth 1,000 words. But I'm like, sir, you posted the pictures. You posted the pictures. Like, you keep bringing this up. You keep rolling around in this conversation in this way. And this is why I said beforehand that I was not under the impression that he was not actually enamored by Stefan. And he was completely fine with it. As I told you, I can't diagnose, but we're going to treat this like a discussion board, right? And when we talk about histrionic personality disorder and the notion that it's a cluster B personality type, it's going to share symptoms with things like antisocial narcissistic, or borderline personality disorder. These are some of my favorites just because of the notion of erratic behaviors, relationships, and how those kinds of disordered thinking can put strain on relationships and impact people. But another important part of this disorder in particular is the notion of it being egocentric. And so when people talk about the egocentric perspectives of any personality disorder, kind of think of it like, oh, but I'm right. Like, yeah, I do that all the time. Like, think of it like that. So when you are talking to somebody, so let's say you're dealing with me and it's like, yo, Sarah, I really don't like when you X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I do that all the time. Do you see how it becomes like this immovable sort of engagement, right? And I want you to think about it kind of like when Amanda Seales felt the need to do her Netflix thing and say like, yeah, but I'm not a part of Insecure, and further discussed why she had the right to express what she was expressing, but not understanding why and how it's problematic, difficult, or disruptive to somebody else's outcomes. And if you are somebody that you feel like you know everything and you do everything so right and so well, why would you not create a space that you can do all of the things that you do in your own space and time? That is egocentricism. That's what that looks like. That's what that feels like. So it's not about necessarily that you know everything. It's just that once you are aware of your core beliefs, right, and you have a certain ideology about yourself and what you think, and you behave in accordance to that, when people tell you about it, you're like, yeah, I know that. And then you get this kind of personality that's like, yeah, but I'm right though. And it's like, oh, this is gonna suck. It's kind of like talking to the desk and hoping that the desk will pick up legs and move, right? Or that the desk is gonna do something different because you asked it to do something different because it's gonna compromise with you. It's like that doesn't happen with certain personality types. Now, that on its own is not a personality disorder, right? That is a symptom. That is what the experience of that personality disorder can be. Because there's some people that very much it's like, yeah, if I talk about it myself, like I'm like, yeah, people stress me out, I'm probably not gonna stay there. And I say it all the time. For that reason, I am not an ideal X, Y, and Z for this reason or another, because I understand myself. So if I want to be in partnership with people, if I want to exist in workspaces, I have to learn how to pivot or change my environments in accordance to who I am and who I choose to be every single day, right? So it's that kind of balancing out. But when that happens in a collection of disordered or dysfunctional behaviors, then we're looking at something else. But let's get further into this discussion around cluster Bs, right? Cluster B personality disorders, they encompass dramatic emotional or erratic behaviors. The cluster B includes, like we mentioned before, HPD, antisocial borderline, and narcissistic personality disorder. So an important note here, I am using the NIH to review this stuff so that I'm not just pulling it from my thoughts and opinions, and I'm actually going to link the article so that you could go ahead and read it anytime and challenge me however you see fit, if you see fit, or learn more about it because it might be fun. And people that are within this cluster, they typically display impulsive actions, emotional instability, and challenges in maintaining stable relationship. Because remember, they tend to become a bit immovable in their thought process. The important part of histrionic personality disorder is that it is an attention-seeking personality type. And so oftentimes this is linked to women. Like when I originally started to look it up, I saw names such as Kim Kardashian and Jessica Simpson and Megan Fox as people that possibly have histrionic personality disorder. And I thought that that was a little bit aggressive, but then I think about things that Kim would say, like when she's like, I didn't fail the ball, I raised it. And I'm like, no, sis, you failed the ball, but you still rich. And I think you could say that just like that. It's totally fine. But that's a part of like, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to maintain this constant draw of people's attention. And so I've said this before in the past, and specifically when we were talking about the situation with academics and talking to Charlemagne and the idea of mania, social media is the perfect conduit for the constant and continuous practice of exaggerated behaviors and attention seeking. Right? So it's not blasphemy that more and more people are showing this kind of disordered thinking. It makes perfect sense because we are in constant practice of the things that are typically considered unhealthy or dysfunctional in typical normal interactions with anybody in face, right? Face to face. And so here we are now trying to figure out how we're going to balance our internet lives and our personal lives. But then we have things like this happen, right? Where people are so obsessive about getting all of this extra attention and talking all of this stuff and creating the right kind of environments that's going to draw people, make people watch and make people stay, and so on and so forth. Before you know it, you're going to become a version of person that you don't like, you don't recognize, you don't understand, or you're always going to be kind of dropping off your baseline of, this is my homeostatic state. Like, I don't need to do all of the extra stuff so that I could constantly be feeling more and more and more and more and more. It's like, yeah, I just need to survive and live well enough. You feel me? Let's go a little bit further into some of the actions or attributes that I felt like were standout when we're talking about potential diagnosis, right? So if you were looking for behaviors in a clinical sense in Cheyenne and Chris, here's where, like, I was like, oh, this is crazy. So one of the features include the interactions with others are typically over-sexualized, inappropriate, and provocative. Another one being consistently utilizing physical appearance to attract attention. We talked about this in that last video when we talked about Cheyenne. Speech that's impressionistic, vague, but also lacks details. One of the things that was recurring inside of the discussions with Chris's interview with Vlad was the notion that he's saying a whole lot, he doing a whole lot, but he's not saying nothing. Now, of course, there is a legal case, so he shouldn't be talking at all, but he made the choice to be here anyway. And it's this engagement that makes me say, you just want to be seen. Cool. Kind of like when kids be just talking to you and they not really saying nothing, but they just want you to pay attention to them. Think about it that way. Exaggerated expression of emotion that tends to be theatrical or self-dramatized. So we watching Chris, he's having a conversation. He's talking about painting his nails. He's talking about existing in this certain type of space. And I keep these bags this way and that way. And you feel me? And that's a fact. And I'm watching it. I'm like, you doing all of this, but you having a conversation about potentially being sexually harassed and beat up. And I'm like, you can't be this dramatized or this excited when having this conversation, and it lands positively. And last but certainly not least is the perception of relationships as more intimate than they actually are. And that was a standout feature, especially when we're talking about what's going on with Stefan and Chris. The idea that he probably took something and exaggerated it immensely. And again, I don't want to sit here and necessarily cape for Stefan, but just sitting on the outside and watching, I'm like, I don't know about this one at all. And going back to my initial point where I said, why would they do this at such an inopportune time? The top symptom or the top attribute is uncomfortable when not the center of attention. And I felt like with the whole thing with Cheyenne, I'm like, yo, it got too quiet and you just felt the need to put yourself out there again. Like, because you want people to see you in the midst of whatever it is that you're doing or whatever you're promoting or whatever is the next op for you. Like, and that level of I need to be seen is interesting to say the least, right? The literature from the NIH suggests that clinicians should evaluate certain behaviors of an individual to support their diagnosis or potential diagnosis, right? And it includes appearance, behavioral patterns, and speech characteristics, right? So someone comes in to see a clinician, they should pay attention to the grooming. And some of the fashion choices that was highlighted by the NIH that a clinician should pay close attention to includes provocative dress and attention-seeking behaviors within that space and in that style of dress. This could be suggestive or excessive tattoos. This can be revealing clothing. This can be bright colored hair, eccentric hairstyles, multiple accessories, or maybe something like a guy painting his nails for the sake of exciting or pulling the draw, right? Some other behaviors that they mentioned again, the dramatic storytelling, the hypersexual gestures, right? And seeking attention through dramatic actions. Just unnecessary stuff to just put yourself in the middle of anybody's discussion for the sake of it. I'm like, okay. And one of the things that they emphasize is that there is nothing wrong with these folks cognitively. Not that people like Cheyenne and Chris are inarticulate, that they are incomprehensive. It's not that at all. It's that you clearly are so self-centered or so attention starved that you're willing to do almost anything so that you can get it. And another part of the conversation that the NIH is pointing out that a clinician should pay attention to is the poor judgment that comes out of these people. So again, all of what they've done, for me, lack of a better way of saying it, it was dumb. It was dumb. Why would you put yourself in a position to be scrutinized and criticized in this way? Like, Stefan is suing Chris in a defamation case. I said, bro, you're going to go on Vlad TV and continue to have this conversation about his sexuality, knowing that you're being sued for defamation as we fucking speak? Why would you continue to have this conversation in this way? Why are you now posting pictures and then saying, oh, a picture's worth 1,000 words, because you think that you're so smart that you're going to say something and that the way that you phrased it, like, it's like when people's like, oh, allegedly such and such did X, Y, and Z. That doesn't help anymore. It's officially been established in legal precedent that when people do all of this allegedly stuff and then go ahead and spew garbage, that they can be sued still, because they understand now that people are doing this almost as almost like a hyperbolic kind of poetry. Like, you are doing it by way of, yeah, I'm dodging the courts. That's dumb. It's dumb. But when there is a person that lacks impulse control, that lacks judgment, then you kind of look at it and you feel differently. You say, okay, they're doing that because they need some attention. It's more important for them to be seen than to make sense. It's more important for them to be the center of attention than to practice appropriate judgment. And so I think that this is an interesting discussion, but I think that this is the beginning of a lot more of these conversations that we are going to have. In fact, I'm not going to say it. I should wait. I'm going to do a few more things that look like this so we can continue to have these conversations in a fun, fruitful sort of way. That is not disrespectful and does not include kicking people's backs in. I'm not going to lie, I don't think this video was as nice as it pertains to Chris and Cheyenne, but, just being honest, pay attention to when you are putting yourself in a position to always and at all cost be the center of attention. Be mindful of the times in which you are not thinking clearly about any kind of behaviors and conversations, because we don't want no problems. That's it. See you next time.